Alrighty, gents.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Early on, I thought the offense did some really good things, especially in the run and play pass period. I thought the offense, did have the upper hand initially, and then as we got further into practice, then you saw the defense do some things. I thought for the most part it was pretty even until then.
I think that when we're at our best, we're pretty tough to beat. But again, we're going on the road, and we got the Nationals and these guys on this road trip. So we're going to go out there, and they'll be held to pay.
Did he say they'll be held to pay?
Hell to pay. Look out, Washington.
Braves are ticked off. They're no longer in first place as they head up to D.C. to open a series tonight. Ron Rivera to open up our voices tonight as the Panthers are having a little off-season training program going on. Marcus Lattimore getting in some final work with the 49ers before coming to Columbia this weekend, talking about he wants Frank Gore's job. Knows it's going to be tough, but he wants Frank Gore's job. I just hope for his sake that he can get through preseason and take some hits and be healthy and get a chance to carry the football on a regular basis in an NFL game. Good to have you with us here. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, your final word in sports every night in South Carolina. Most informed, most intelligent, most lively word in sports. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary with us tonight, and Professor Tom Hayes there as well, and the state man, Graham Pope, back to 100% now. He had been on the disabled list after a very difficult injury that he sustained in the high-profile sport of paintball, and now that he has gotten the bandage off, guys, he's back to 100%. He's off the DL.
Okay, and he's been fined for
Nope.
because in his contract, no paintball.
No more methylate, off the methylate, right? Did you have any methylate on that thing?
I don't really even think I know what that is, actually.
Now, when we were kids,
Old school drugs?
anytime you got hurt, what did your mom put on it? Methylate.
Morphine?
And that thing used to sting. Remember, it'd leave a red or orange.
Oh, you mean the little? Some people used to call it mercurochrome.
Mercurochrome, that was another thing. Yeah.
Is it outlawed now?
I don't know. I don't
Is
ever
that the
see
stuff
it anymore.
the Ghana soccer team sprays on the guys when they go down on the pitch and they
Probably.
jump up and they're fine?
You kids of today, you get these little creams and everything. We used to get the real stingy stuff to put on injuries. That's
We go
what
with
made us
straight
tough.
HGH now.
That's how you know it's sanitized. It burns.
I couldn't even spell methylate if I had to, or mercurochrome if I had to. Anyway, I'm glad that the state man's healthy and 100%. 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. As always, we will take your phone calls tonight. Love to hear from you as we continue to churn things up for the upcoming college football season. We can't wait for it to get here. Of course, we're anxious for that. But between now and then, we've got other things to talk about. The Women's U.S. Open is going on. The little 11-year-old, well, I tell you what, she shot a 78 at Pinehurst #2 in U.S. Open conditions. That's pretty doggone good. We'll update that leaderboard and other things coming up.
Stand by, guys.
And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phone number 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, @SportsTalkSC. Feel free to hit us up any of those ways. Check out the website, sportstalksc.com. Get our audio feed there. If you can't find us over the airwaves, a good, consistent way to get us is on our website, sportstalksc.com. And the video feed, Palmetto Pride webcam fired up once again. You get a chance to see all of us in action. And that is at the bottom of the page at sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, it is Sports Talk
I like
Radio
to wave to the camera every
Network.
now
Yeah,
and
that's K-Mac in
then, just
case
to
you
say
were
hi to
wondering.
people. Hi. Hi, camera.
All right. Before I update the Open, something I wanted to bring up this evening to get into.
The Open.
The Women's Open.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what we're just calling it, the Open.
Well,
That's the Open.
I think that's what people
You know,
understand.
where's your little political correct speech that you made about the College World Series and the Women's College World Series?
Excellent point.
If you're going to be an old grumpy, crotchety man, at least be consistent.
Plus,
for
when you
crying
say
out
the
loud.
Open, doesn't that mean the British Open?
That does.
It
It does.
should.
But I was
It
just
should.
trying to be concise. But you're
Oh,
right.
okay.
The women's version of the men's championship,
With an 11-year-old.
the U.S. Women's Open. They're playing it on the
there's such a
same
talented field and 11-year-olds in it.
Pinehurst course. Well, she earned her way into it. But anyway, I want to talk about Mark Emmert, president of the NCAA. He was testifying today in Oakland
Uh-oh.
in the Ed O'Brien trial, the lawsuit, and basically he said that colleges don't want to pay players. And he said, quote, the line of demarcation is a difficult one to determine. And in talking about where amateurism ends in sports and where professionalism begins. And he said that if it came to paying players by some schools, he said he would expect that most schools would move toward a Division III model. That's when he was asked what would happen if players were able to earn money off their name, image, and likeness. Division III schools do not offer scholarships. So he said to convert college sports to professional sports would be tantamount to converting it to minor league sport. So before you say something, K-Mac.
It's just laugh. I mean, I can't. I'm trying to contain the
hold
laughter
then
inside
contain
of me.
yourself. Contain
That's
yourself.
such a
because that's not
stupid thing to say.
Here's what I want to get to, and I'm talking, down the road here, perhaps not for our generation, but for the next generation of sports fans following college sports, and that is, would it be best? And I'm being serious when I say this now. When I think about, for example, what's happened at North Carolina and the academic fraud, and no doubt other places in major college sports around the country, would it not be best for all concerned just to take the athletic department at the 65 or so major athletic factories that we have in the country, maybe fewer than those. I mean, some of those might be weeded out because they are strong institutions of education as well. But let's just take that group where the athletics wags the dog. Take the athletics department and separate it from the academic side.
I thought it's already.
No, let me finish. I mean, separate it totally from the academic side. Don't make the athletes go to class. You recruit the athletes like you've been recruiting them. Have a pay scale for them. You got plenty of money. Let them sell their image. Let it be like a minor sport. Let it be a training ground for these guys to spend a year or two. If they're good enough to go right into to the real pros out of high school, let them go. I'm just saying, cut the crap and the facade of student athletes and trying to sell the argument that they're just like everybody else on campus when they're not, and set them aside and let them play for your favorite school You can come cheer for them and everything, but they won't be students. They'll just be athletes.
But they are students, though. I mean, people forget that, and it's not really a facade. They really are going to class, and a lot of them really are getting degrees, and a lot of them really are going pro in something other than sports. To steal the old cliche from the commercial.
That's original.
But no, I don't think that should happen. I do think they should have what would be a more likely thing to let these guys major in sports finance, things that would actually help them after their careers. They want to go into coaching.
But you want them paid.
I want them compensated, not paid, not a salary. I think they deserve a bigger piece of the pie than they're getting now. They're getting absolutely jobbed. They have no rights whatsoever. They can't transfer to another school. They can't do anything, and people are pocketing bukus of money. The NCAA is paying lawyers like $10,000 a day to argue about why these players don't deserve more. They do deserve more. Whether it's, I'm not talking a salary, but the jerseys, whether you put it in an escrow account, they could come up with more. Steve Spurrier had the idea of, you know what, it would cost every school, every football team $30,000 a year if they gave $200 extra per player, $200 for the players, $200 for the parents for travel to come to games. We could do that right off the bat.
Wait a minute, $200 is not going to cover. You mean per game?
$30,000. Yeah.
$200 per game to come to a game
for the parents.
Yeah.
To cover their traveling costs, and then $200 extra for the players to have after the game to go out, buy their girlfriend a soda, whatever.
So
to give to their parents.
You're saying $400 per scholarship player. There's 85 scholarship players, or let's just round it to 100 because let's throw the walk-ons in there too. So $400 at $100, that's 40,000. At 100 players, that's 40,000.
But it's not 100 players though. You're going up. It's $30,000 if you do it with 85 players, and that is a thimble of money when you talk about the billions of dollars running through the NCAA. It's a drop in the hat, but they're greedy. They want to keep it all to themselves. And you know, the rules, what's going to happen is the SEC's already talking about it. Autonomy, the ACC won't be far behind. These power conferences that have the money, they're going to say, forget the NCAA. We're going to do it our way. We're going to compensate these guys more. They're not going to pay them because that's not a good business model, but they are going to make sure those players get more, and the NCAA is going to be obsolete.
Well,
they are grasping at straws.
Ed O'Bannon testified that he was not a student when he was at UCLA, that he spent 40, 45 hours a week working on his basketball.
That was his choice. That was his choice.
But he was allowed to do that.
But that was his choice.
And UCLA benefited by him working on his basketball.
But guess who was coach then?
Yeah, I know who his coach was.
Who was it?
It was Herrick.
Jim Herrick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And he did the same thing at Georgia. And what happened when they discovered he was doing that?
So let's go closer to home. I mean, let's look at the North Carolina situation where you've got a player saying that he took fake classes and fake online stuff, and people did the work, and it wasn't just him; it was a bunch of other people, and this seems to be something that has run amok at a place like North Carolina. Now, if it can happen at a place like North Carolina, which is held in high esteem academically outside of its athletics, then it can happen any place because the will to win, the urge to win, the necessity to win, to keep these guys eligible is so strong. And let's face it, okay, we've got a lot of athletes in these major colleges that from an academic standpoint didn't earn the right to be there on their academics, okay? They got in through hook and crook, and they're being kept eligible through hook and crook. So,
you mean just like the artistic students or the music students who got in that maybe have been poor academically, but they were talented?
Is that true? Do they have artists in these schools that didn't get in on with their grades?
Engineers that come in from foreign countries that don't speak English or could never pass the English requirement, but schools know like this guy has a talent, that we can hone in on, and we'll get him into school, and there's things that you can do, and I think I don't have a major problem with that. Now, if you're breaking the rules, there's an issue there, and if you have people writing papers and plagiarizing, that's a completely separate issue for the university other than the athletic side of it. North Carolina will have to deal with that. But I think by and large, most schools really do it the right way, and a lot of kids are getting education. I mean, it's the principle of it still works, but on these high levels, men's basketball and football, those athletes deserve more for what they provide.
All right, going to hit a break. We'll get to your phone calls, 800 800-956-7266. We'll be right back.
Costa Rica in Group D, a vital game now for England as far as their continued presence in this World Cup is concerned. Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. ESPN, watchespn.com and the Watch ESPN app.
That was a little bit high, both of them, just the one.
Lassaman, big things are expected in Greek football. Expecting big things tonight. They haven't generally seen it in World Cups. Stunned the world in Euro 2004, as you mentioned, Efan. Quarterfinals last time as well.
All right, quick look at the Women's U.S. Open leaderboard, and Stacey Lewis, who I think only missed one fairway and one green today, 3 under 67. Catherine Kirk, 1 under 69, along with So Yeon Ryu. And Minji Lee is also in at 1 under 69. Michelle Wee, through 16 holes, is 1 under, as is Paula Creamer. Kari Webb, even par 70. And the young lady, little 11-year-old, shot 78 today. Still makes me sick that an 11-year-old can go out in a major championship and do something I could never, ever do. She's only been playing golf since she was 7. Lucy Liu, been playing golf since she was like 7 years old, only the last 4 years, and she can go out and shoot 78 in the Women's U.S. Open. It's pretty amazing. All right, to your phone calls, 800-956-7266. Bob in Greenville, good evening, sir, and welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm fine, Phil. Thank you for taking my call. You know, that thing about you were talking about separating the athletics from school.
Yes.
That's something that I've thought about for years, because that's all it amounts to anyway, Phil. In a lot of instances, I mean, if the guys want to go to school, fine. If they don't, let them play football. And in addition to that, you know I'm a big Carolina fan. I love football good as anybody. In addition to that, I saw something on TV last week, I believe it was. I don't know if you saw it. It was just a kind of a headline. I've been intending to look it up. Where all these top income people at the very top have increased their giving in the last year to the universities, state to education. And I'm just wondering how much of that money that they're getting tax write-offs for is really nothing but a selfish reason to get into extra attention when they go to the ball game, get good seats and all that kind of stuff. You ever think about something like that? Why should somebody get the benefit of having a good parking space or good seats at a ball game and then get a $1 million write-off on their taxes, and you and I got to pay for those taxes.
Yeah, I hear you. That's part of the donor business. You're a big donor. You're a big cat. You're going to be treated.
Well, if I was, I wouldn't be dropping
no.
about those.
When I say
go ahead,
I'm talking about in general. In general terms, if you're a big donor, whether it's college athletics or you might be a big donor to the Metropolitan Arts, and you want to go to the art show and you give millions of dollars, they're going to sit you right down the front row. They're going to let you pull up and park right next to the door. That's part of the perks of giving tons of money to a particular group, whatever it happens to be. So, and yeah, the rank and file guys like the rest of us, well, I mean, I sit in the press box, but I'm working. The rest of you, the rank and file, you're sitting out there in the heat and you're cheering your lungs off and
they're having fun
and you're having a good time, but you're not getting all the perks of the fat cats donating the money.
Don't need all those perks.
That money is needed, they keep telling us, to keep these organizations operating.
May see it even a few months before sometimes.
Those perks suck.
It's been a goal-filled tournament so far. Average of 3 a game so far, very impressive. But what isn't impressive from a Greek point of view is Progno down.
He's been kicked on the hip. That can be very painful if he's landed there. Worse. Bruises don't always manifest themselves negatively so quickly. And of course, the next couple of hours and certainly overnight, see exactly what happened. Yeah, elbow, really certainly accidental.
Certainly it hurt the Greek gunslinger. Some interesting sights.
Yeah, that's the adjective I was about to use. Interesting. I didn't know quite what to make of it. It was great to see all the colours, isn't it? All the different nations. It really feels like a South American tournament. That's why I really believe that one of them will lift the trophy. It's a home tournament for Colombia, for Chile. We've seen how they performed in their 2 matches. The Argentinians, of course, not going too far to the border with Brazil.
There have been some very impressive European performances as well. I mean, is it beyond the realms of possibility that a European team could come to South America and win the World Cup? And who would you see as the most likely if they are to do that?
I feel Holland will have a full 30 or 40 minutes against one of the better sides, probably in the knockout stage, when they'll be enough to send them packing. I have a sneaky feeling that France could do well, certainly sneaking in under the radar. There's not much in terms of hope back home. Very often teams that don't qualify well or have a slightly fractious build-up, they find themselves being far in the tournament.
It's a new promotional thing we're doing.
Certainly showed their tournament nous against England. We'll be seeing the French tomorrow. Their battle against Switzerland.
Is that a joke?
Who left it late.
It's a great opportunity to talk to your listeners about this going on in South Carolina as well, because we are a southern rural state.
But they've certainly harnessed a lot of talent that has come over from the Balkans to Switzerland.
You ever been to
Very
the
successful at youth level in the last
Sportsman
few years.
Classic?
Champions under 17.
Sportsman Classic?
2009.
You get sleeve after sleeve there for $3.99.
Championship in Denmark 3 years ago.
It's a very rich footballing culture they're developing, and they've got the right man to sort of see them through that period. Otmar Hitzfeld has got all the t-shirts.
Now comes in. It's Okubo who went up there.
And that was great timing. It's a great ball in. And Okubo really should be doing better. Free header, 12 yards out. And from that distance, whether you are a good header of the ball or not, you should at least be hitting the target. Good striker would expect to score from there, especially if it's a downward header.
His reaction tells you he did as well.
Must have been a brilliant cross, just a good one. Nagatomo, he was at least 15 or so yards from the dead ball line. It's a great ball into a very...
All right, stand by, guys. Coming back.
Wow. Just watching Michelle Wee run one home from about 15 feet or so. That must have been a safe par on 17. Yeah, it was a safe par on the par 3, 17th there, but nice putt for her to stay at 1 under par. Boy, she has really, her new putting stance, I guess it's new. I don't see her very much, but if you can imagine somebody being completely bent over at the waist with their back completely flat where you could put a plate on the back and it wouldn't slide off. That's how much she bends over at the waist to line up her putts, and obviously it's working for her.
I'm not
she's
so
going to beat
certain
the
that
11-year-old today.
a chiropractor would tell you to do that. That looks a little bit painful.
All right, 800-956-7266, our number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Much Twitter activity on the feed today, K-Mac?
Yes, yeah, we can get to some of that at Sports Talk SC. Some people have been chiming in on various topics that we will delve into, and you can join us as well at Sports Talk SC. Follow along. You don't have to tweet at us, but you can at least follow us and see what we're thinking about.
Okay, you want more out of your education? While we're talking about education, we want to talk about a real education. Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. To find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Got recruiting coming up. Running back prospect visiting USC today from Hoover, Alabama. Bradrick Shaw, we'll talk about that and other things in recruiting, an update on some other players as well that we'll get to in our recruiting segment later on, so stay tuned for that. As we go back to your phone calls, and it's Ed in Batesburg. And Ed, good to have you with us. Have they ever named a replacement for Coach Brown over there at the high school?
I really don't know. I don't follow the local sports.
Okay. I caught you off guard.
I'm an ex-Tar Heel. Went to school there. Y'all talk a lot about North Carolina lately, but I wanted to ask you what you know about them from the standpoint of two things: recruiting, how they doing for the class coming in, 14, and also for 15. And also the stadium survey you all were talking about yesterday. Where does Keenan Stadium rank into that?
K-Mac, I'll let you look that up. Probably way down the list. I mean, it's a beautiful stadium, but it's not a
top
particularly...
25. I don't think they're ranked.
They weren't in the top 25. I'll see where they finished in the ACC stadiums.
Yeah, because it's a smallish stadium, and let's face it, the Tar Heel crowd is not particularly an overwhelmingly enthusiastic football crowd, generally speaking. Your recruiting class for the 2015 class, the one that's being assembled right now, if you just go by the Rivals ranking, North Carolina's number 16 right now.
Okay.
They've got some, from what I understand, of course, I don't follow them that closely from that standpoint, but just looking at it, their offensive line haul is pretty good. They just got the kid out of Durham that South Carolina was recruiting, McGirt. Yeah, they got Tommy Hatton, another kid that South Carolina was recruiting. William Sweet down in Florida. Mason Veal. They've got 3 guys that South Carolina heavily recruited. Mason Veal, whose father played at South Carolina, Emmanuel McGirt, and Tommy Hatton, all committed to North Carolina. So they're putting together a pretty good-looking class thus far, and they've got their quarterback, Anthony Ratliff, out of Matthews, North Carolina.
North Carolina was 7th.
Oh, 7th.
7th, behind Georgia Tech. And Louisville came
in. Come on now. No.
You must mean that's in the ACC.
In the ACC.
Yeah, I would not put Georgia Tech above Keenan State.
And the voters, they just took 12 ACC experts, beat writers. West Durham, David Hood, our buddy David Hood was one of the voters. David Glenn, just different people that cover the conference up close and personal. So yeah, it was Clemson, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Louisville, NC State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Virginia, Syracuse, Miami, Pitt, Boston College, Wake Forest, and Duke.
Now, how do you rank Georgia Tech?
I happen to think Boston College is a nice experience. It's a small stadium, but it's in a beautiful community, and
30 or 40 people
it's
show
in
up
Boston, and it's an alumni stadium there. It's a nice, quaint little setting for an afternoon of
again
football frothing.
We talked about on-campus stadiums. Keenan Stadium. Remember now, what is it? The will forbids them from building above those trees, nestled in the trees. How in the world? I mean, everybody knows, you can sit at Georgia Tech and see the Atlanta skyline, but come on now. Keenan is more picturesque than where the Ramblin' Wreck play.
I would agree. Back to the calls we go. Chris in Lancaster, good evening, and welcome into Sports Talk. How are you? Hey, Chris, are you with us, my man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. A comment about the compensating players or what have you. I'm not necessarily sure that really needs to happen because, I mean, if it did happen, I believe that the kids would be required to stay 4 years because you have a lot of kids that come in, play 2 years, and go on at these universities, and I guess they know out front, going into it, that they're probably going to stay 1 or 2 years and be done, but if you're going to compensate them, I think they should have to stay the 4 years. I also believe that, like jersey sales, things like that. Clemson last year had Bo Ware wore number 10 on defense. Boyd wears number 10 offense. Probably 100% of the jerseys with number 10 that were sold because of Taj Boyd. But does Bo Ware get compensated for that too? I mean, there's a lot to it.
No, he doesn't. Plain and simple. Market demand. He doesn't.
I mean, his name's not on the back of the jersey. I would think that all that money would go to Taj. At South Carolina, you had you had Lattimore wearing 21, and you had Holloman wearing 21.
Well, no, that you had David
right?
Clowney wearing 7, and
Sean Carson wears Sean 7. Says, I'm going to get my cut of number 7.
Stephon Gilmore wore number 5, and Stephen Garcia wore number 5.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for your phone call. And I hear what you're saying. And again, I want to make this point now, and this is kind of where I think we differ a little bit, and I've said this from day one. I think college athletes who are on scholarship, they do get things. They get a scholarship, a college education paid for. And I mean, that's big. That's depending on where you go to school, that's anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 to $50,000 a year. They get nice room and board. They get their meals paid for. When they go on the road for their team, they're staying, if you're a football team, listen, these major college football teams, they're staying in 5-star accommodations. They fly in, they fly out, charter, and they live a good life from that standpoint. Are there demands on them? Is there time? Do their sports require a great deal of their time? Absolutely, it does. But they're being compensated. I mean, I believe they're professionals already. If you look up on the internet, where I like to go to the Oxford Dictionary, look up the word professional. If you're given anything and compensation for your talents, you're a professional. And they're given scholarships for their talents of whatever it is they're doing. And thus, by the definition of the word, they are professionals. Now, the NCAA, doing what they do best, and that is giving you a smokescreen, they don't look at that as being being professional, giving someone a scholarship, as being professional. But truly it is. You're already a professional when you sign that letter of intent. Is like signing a pro contract, because you're going to be compensated because of your athletic skills. That's the definition of being a professional.
My latest dictionary, I looked up professional is a derogatory term.
No,
it cannot.
It needs to be wiped out of the lexicon.
No, but see, But I'm just thinking, are the demands on an athlete over and beyond the regular student? The answer, yes. And when you see all this money floating around, I'm like Spurrier. Well, they give it to us because they can't give it to the players, so they got to give it to somebody. So I guess I get it.
Well, I haven't seen any coaches turn it down.
No.
Work for free. We'll be right back. More calls coming up. Braves Report 2.
That was a glare from Samaras.
Disbelief. You challenge them.
Karagounis over the free kick.
Has to be spot on. A bit too straight for his liking. One ball sometimes, good or bad, tends to miss everybody.
In threateningly, Torosidis trying to flick it onto target.
That wasn't a bad ball from Karagounis, lots of bait on it. Over the penalty spot.
He's been more of a backup player this year, Roma Torosidis, but 28, pretty much at the peak of his powers, I suppose. That's Nasabe. We've seen the fifth red card now of this tournament for Greece today in the shape of Katsouranis. We head into 2 added minutes at the end of this first half. Honda trying to unpick the lock again. Nagatomo. Free weight. Asako at the back. Karagounis. Japanese players certainly with plenty to say about the decision. Another free kick to Greece. Well, sometimes it can get more difficult against 10 as they galvanise themselves and couldn't be any more straightforward for Alberto Zaccaroni. Torosidis. Greeks, the experts in upsetting the odds, and they're certainly against them here. But the flag also goes up against them, against Gekas.
Certainly, I think during the half-time team talk, Alberto Zaccaroni will be trying to focus on his team to be a little bit more patient in terms of ball retention. He's onside. Just.
That may be the case against Manolas in the middle, but it's irrelevant once the ball doesn't head his way.
Switch of play will be important if Japan can do that. And the real runners with the ball, trying to just get them 15 or 20 minutes and keep allowing Greece to shuffle across, but in those quick transition plays from left to right, right to left, are the ones that really get those defensive midfield players.
Well, no breakthrough yet for the Samurai Blue, who know that defeat will end their World Cup hopes. Greece will have to battle on with just 10 men after a second yellow card showed to Kostas Katsouranis, the brains of the operation. They are certainly up against it, but that, history tells you, tends to be the way they like it. Goalless in Natal here at half-time.
All right, time for your not first place Atlanta Braves reports with Mike Morgan. who, as far as we're concerned, is always in first place in terms of broadcasters, except when he's in this studio, then he falls into fourth. Good to have you with us. So the Braves stumbling into D.C. tonight.
I can't help but notice a little bit of glee in your voice over that. Where's this anti-Brave sentiment?
I have
coming?
no anti-Brave sentiment. Well, I'd like to see him drop the name Braves because I'm offended by that. But other than that, the Atlantans are just fine.
I'm offended by Yankees.
Are you bitter that Brian McCann has not exactly worked out the way you planned? Is that what this is all about?
Had a home run last night and 2 other RBI. Thank you.
All right. Well, when he hits above 235, call me. By the way, in all seriousness, I love Brian McCann. I'm pulling for Brian McCann.
I am pulling. Yes, we're all pulling for Brian McCann. We want Brian McCann to do well.
He's a good guy.
You made him shave his beard, and that's what happens.
And then in about 3 or 4 more years, we'll sign Evan Gattis, and we'll just keep it going.
Well, Evan Gattis is the one guy who's actually hitting for the Braves, so I hope that doesn't happen. There's a lot of other guys you're welcome to trade for. Dan Ugla, B.J. Upton.
Hey, listen, you're harder on him than I've ever been on him, so, you know.
Upton may do well there back in the American League.
Yeah, maybe that's where he needs to be. No, I mean, look, the Phillies series, I think, was the low mark of the season, so now you have a chance to perhaps produce the high mark if you're able to win this series at Washington. It won't be easy. You had a chance to really separate from the Nationals when they were down and without Bryce Harper and we're not playing well. And instead, you fall behind them now in the division. You got to play them 4 times on the road. You don't hear me use the word big series or the phrase big series in April, May, and June very often. I just don't believe in that. I think it's way overused. In this case, I'll say it, and it has nothing to do with the standings. I mean, even if you got swept, the number of games behind, there's plenty of time to catch up. I think psychologically, though, this is a chance for the Nationals to kind of knock the Braves down and steal their milk money if you're not careful. You've got to go ahead and be competitive in this series and maintain some type of aura about you that you do belong as a team that's a contender in the National League. Right now, Washington is just playing better baseball. So I think it all starts tonight with Gavin Floyd, who has pitched well against Jordan Zimmerman, for my money, one of the more underrated starters in Major League Baseball. So great pitching matchup. We'll see if the Braves can actually hit now.
You know, it's interesting. You guys were joking about Brian McCann, but then that begs the question, because let's face it, leadership in the locker room always seems to coalesce when things are not going well. Can you pinpoint where the leadership is on this team right now?
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason why I say, even though I like ribbing Mr. Kornbluth there from time to time, as he does me. But in all honesty, Brian McCann was one of my favorite players and one of the favorite players here because it went beyond just the numbers. He was a guy that was a leader. And when you think about the personalities that this team has lost in the last few years, from Chipper Jones to Tim Hudson to Brian McCann, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to ask of any team. Forget about what they do productivity-wise. Think about what they were to this team in terms of clubhouse leaders. I don't know the answer to your question. To be honest with you, Pro, I don't know who the leader is. Who do you point to right now? There's a lot of young guys out there, and it's pretty hard to be the leader of a team when you're a young guy. And then you've got some veterans that aren't producing. It's pretty hard to lead when you're not producing. So I think we're going to find out more about this team again in this 4-game series. Who leads the way? Who steps up? What guy who's been struggling all of a sudden puts together a good series? That'll tell us a lot.
Real quick, Tommy La Stella in the Phillies series, 1 for 14. So, what were his problems? Have they discovered some holes in his swing and stuff?
Well, I think it's too early to say that. Obviously, when you come up, nobody's really got the book on you, and then all of a sudden they start to figure things out. But I think he's entitled to one bad series. Now let's see what he does. I mean, they're going to give him a greater sample size before they say, well, clearly he's not a guy that can hit big league pitching consistently. He deserves more time. He'll get more time. I think we'll find out how he does against much better pitching, quite frankly. I mean, that was a surprise against Philadelphia. Other than Cole Hamels, they don't have a whole lot, and yet the Braves struggle to score runs. The runs should be much tougher to come by in our nation's capital.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Another piece of bad news for the Braves. They haven't won a game on Thursday this season. They're 0-5 on Thursdays this year. Just a little note to tuck away as the Braves head into action tonight. Braves
They wanna
Reports
play at 5:30.
brought to you by Whit Suber, days off of Home Shop Realty, where you pay less for more. Call 803-518-3888. And by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. Back in a moment.
Some space for those guys to work in.
You said everything.
Well, would you like to see Kagawa come on? He was benched today.
I would love to see him, but he's not confident enough. The coach already decided to drop him. But what they should do is put more pressure on this Greek team. They had already 2 subs, 1 man down, so they should put more pressure on them to create more chances, and then they should win.
Well, they both need a win. It's goalless at half-time. And earlier in Group D, the pilots have started the engines on the England plane after they went down 2-1 to Uruguay. And Luis Suarez, who was back and was brilliant.
The 2014 FIFA World Cup Hyundai Halftime is presented by Hyundai, official.
That would make me happy.
All right, Braves and Phillies tonight. Braves and Nationals tonight. Coming up in D.C. a little bit after the top of the hour. We'll see if the Braves can get things rolling in a positive direction. Again, they're now tied with Miami for second in the National League East behind the Nationals. Hey, when you're out on the water this weekend or anytime, of course, we all encourage you to have fun, have a great time, but of course, never drink and drive that boat. Always designate a driver. Always wear your life jacket, and we'll all make it through the summer safely. And we can see you at the football games this fall, watching those student athletes put their books aside for a couple of hours and go out and slam into each other.
Now, you joke about that, but a larger percentage of athletes get their degrees than the general student body.
That's a good point. That's what the numbers say. Back to the calls we go. Bert in Saluda. There can only be one Bert. This has to be BB, Bulldog Bert. Hey, anybody suspended by the Bulldogs today?
What's that, Phil?
Anybody suspended by the Georgia Bulldogs today?
Oh, okay. I know you're getting happy about that. I don't think so, thank goodness. But we just have a few more days. Everybody's been asking why I haven't been calling in. Well, get ready. I'll be calling in more to the show.
Can't wait.
And it's 70-something days, Phil, and football season officially starts. I'm tired of watching the soccer matches. Bring on the real football.
I got you. Here. I'm all behind that. Now, here's the thing, BB. I mean, we're 70-something days away, and
72 from Georgia, 70 from South Carolina, Texas A&M.
Thank you, K-Mac, for the accuracy. So, I mean, are you going to be dancing 72 days from now, or are you going to be drinking some stiff alcohol to ease the pain?
Well, no, number one, I don't drink, and number two, I'm not going to have to ease the pain. I'm going to be rejoicing in the victory of the Georgia Bulldogs because Clemson has got to come between the hedges. It's not going to be a luck up this time.
Mm-hmm. Not going to be a what?
A luck up.
A luck up? Are you saying the Tigers were lucky last year?
Well, without Taj Boyd, it's a guaranteed loss.
Yeah, but what if Gurley Boy goes down with a little leg injury again? You know, Tigers knocked him out of that game last year. They roughed him up.
Well, listen, if he goes down in the backfield, I'll be doing a whole lot of praying.
Do you think how confident are you in your quarterback?
Very confident. He beat the in-state rival Georgia Tech, and he lost to a very good Nebraska team. So I think that he is going to do a great job. He started against some good teams, and so he has the experience.
All right. Well, hey, we got to run. We'll see. Can't wait for it to get here. Top of the hour break.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us here as we head towards Thursday evening around the state of South Carolina. I hope you had a great day. So happy that you have joined us on the program tonight. 800-956-7266. Lines have opened back up now. You can get through. 800-956-7266. Also, email talkback@sportstalksc.com and Twitter @SportsTalkSC. In the first round of the U.S. Women's Open at Pinehurst, number 2. It is Stacy Lewis at 3 under, Michelle Wee at 2 under, and in the clubhouse at 1 under, 69. Catherine Kirk. Let's see here. So Yin Ru, the amateur, Minji Lee, and they are at 69. And then at 70, Kari Webb and Paula Creamer. All right, and the young girl, the 11-year-old, shot 78 today. That's a heck of a round.
You're really into
the
Women's U.S. Open.
Well, it is our national championship for the women. I'm just being fair and balanced. Oh. Lucy Lee, she shot 78 today. So
she got a strawberry shortcake cupcake when she was done.
Did she really?
I don't know.
I mean, why would you say that, K-Mac? Did they give
She's
strawberry shortcake to Phil Mickelson?
She gets to watch an extra Bubble Guppies tonight when she gets back to the hotel.
She had a better round than Phil Mickelson did during the Open.
Played the same exact course.
You know? Well, maybe she didn't. I think Phil shot better than 6 under in one of his rounds. But anyway, they're just about done for the day at Pinehurst. So it looks like Stacy Lewis, an American, will take the lead into the second round. As for the PGA stop, it's the Travelers Championship, and that is in Connecticut or in Massachusetts? That is in Connecticut, and top of the leaderboard right now is Bud Cauley and also Ryan Moore. And they are at 7 under, 63. Large group at 64, including Chad Campbell and Joe Durant. As far as some of the locals, Dustin Johnson, 4 under, 66. Bubba Watson, not local, but we follow, 3 under, 67. Chris Blanks, a 69. Jonathan Bird, a 70. Tommy Gainey, a 70. Scott Brown, a 71. Bill McGirt, a 71. And Kyle Stanley, a 71 up in Connecticut. Anything big happen on the soccer front today, K-Mac? I know you watch all that around the clock.
Did anything big happen?
Yeah, anybody score a goal? Or
England's done.
Yeah, the Queen is upset.
Why are you just on this world? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with what is wrong with the World Cup? I don't understand. You don't like competition? You don't like sports?
Time out. Stay man. Did I say there was anything wrong with it?
No, like anybody score a goal. You've been very throwing shade on the World Cup. It's like, what's so bad about it? Should they not have it anymore?
Suit me.
I mean, there's been more scoring in the World Cup than in Omaha. One home run in Omaha. One.
I'd rather watch racing at Sonoma this weekend.
Sure.
In fact,
you're in the minority. You're in the vast minority.
I think I will watch racing at Sonoma this weekend.
You need to watch Sunday's game when you see that one goal that matters happen and USA reach victory. You'll be sold ever since. From that point forward. All right, stand by, guys.
It is Sports Talk. Good to have you with us on a Thursday night. 800-956-7266, the number. Let's get to some email. Talkback at sportstalksc.com. Talkback at sportstalksc.com. So you can reach us via email. Then K-Mac will hit some of the better stuff on Twitter. This is from Mr. Payne in Great Falls, who's not a Payne, but that's his last name, P-A-Y-N-E.
P-A-Y-N-E.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, Phil, I have a simple question. What is Deshaun Watson's size? A caller said he was 6'3", 180. Lindy's says he's 6'3", 200. I've seen some snide blogs that say he wouldn't weigh 180 with 2 bowling balls in his pocket. I know this. The game he will see this fall will be a lot faster and a lot more physical than he saw in high school, and I just can't see Morris or Dabo throwing him to the Lions this early. Well, the official Clemson depth chart coming out of spring. All right, we'll just take a look at that. The official Clemson depth chart coming out of spring lists him at 6'3", 190. All right.
Well, he's eaten a few biscuits since then.
He's been to some all-in cookouts.
Cole Stout is listed at 6'4", 210.
He's been to that Chick-fil-A on campus. He's got to be over 200 by now.
The Chick-fil-A. Remember the linebacker who didn't go to Clemson because they didn't have a...
He ended up at Auburn, yeah.
No, the funny thing was
not Isom. It was that was years ago. This is a more recent guy.
The way
Isom was the guy that was supposed to sign with South Carolina, and then
went in dressed in South Carolina garb, got ready to sign the papers, stopped, went over, talked to his parents, came back, signed with Auburn.
Right.
Incredible. And that's the beautiful thing about recruiting. This is from who is this from? Rod, talking about Tyshawn Williams, running back from Crestwood. And he says in past interviews, Williams has said that early playing time is a major factor for him. That is supposedly why he put Notre Dame ahead of USC at one point. Has he not seen the roster for Georgia? Gurley, Marshall, Chubb, and Michael, all 5 stars at one point. What gives? Why the hesitation to back up David Williams for a year? Well, I don't think there is a hesitation. I think South Carolina is very much in the hunt. He's going to be at South Carolina tomorrow for an unofficial visit. The question is, how hard will the Gamecocks push for him? Because they like this running back, A.J. Turner, a lot out of Virginia. They also like this Jordan Scarlett kid out of Florida. And they've had Bradrick Shaw on campus today. So they've got several running backs that they're looking at. Where Tyshawn Williams fits in terms of the talent amongst those guys, I don't know. But certainly in our state, he might be the best senior running back this year or darn near close to it. All right, and let's see here. Another email into us here at Sports Talk. This is from Tony in Swansea. And why hasn't South Carolina recruited Jonathan Sutton? It's in their own backyard. Jonathan Sutton, linebacker from Swansea. Good player. Unfortunately, he hurt his knee early in his junior year and missed the rest of his junior year, tore his ACL. And I think South Carolina and Clemson kind of cooled on him after that. And North Carolina is very strong on him. He's going to be visiting there soon. In fact, I think it's this weekend he's going to be visiting there. So North Carolina is very strong on him, and he is very strong on North Carolina. But I think the injury hurt him as far as the in-state schools are concerned.
And what position does he play again?
Linebacker.
Yeah, that's
and
tough.
A little running back.
Because he's got to change a lot of directions. By the way, when you mention running backs, a word to the wise. If there's any high school running backs out there, let me give them a piece of advice. If you're a running back and you want to star at a college lineup, don't look at the running back depth chart. Don't look at that. Look at the offensive line depth chart and see how many seasoned veterans are in the front that's going to be blocking for you.
Yeah.
Because you can go to school, hey, I'm getting good playing time, and notice that all the linemen have graduated the year before. Yeah, check out that offensive line depth chart. That's the one you need to be taking a look at.
Thing about Sutton, too, he got hurt on a running play and was not touched. He was on turf, and he cut, and bang.
That happens.
There it went. A couple more. This one also from Tony in Swansea. Dante Sawyer signed last year with South Carolina, went to junior college. Doesn't that release him from his obligation to South Carolina? Yes, it does. However, he remains committed to South Carolina and plans to return or go to South Carolina in January if everything is set academically. Also, he writes, no one else has Gerard Washington on their radar. What's up with that? Well, he committed early to South Carolina and has stuck to that. So others have left him alone from a recruiting standpoint. Yarkey wants to know, do you think Clemson has a legitimate shot with George Campbell? If they get him on campus, quite possible because they've got some of his buddies committed, got some people pulling on him. He hasn't gotten to Clemson for a serious visit here recently. If that happens, I'd like their chances to have a shot. He's a big-time wide receiver from down in Tarpon Springs. Though I think South Carolina might be in better position. And Darian Roseboro, yeah, they have a legitimate shot in him as well, the defensive end from North Carolina. And that is it as far as our email questions. K-Mac, what do you have on the Twitter feed?
Well, first of all, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, it's about 3-1 everybody calling you a dope for knocking the World Cup.
I think that's dopey to call me a dope. I think that's very dopey.
Also, a lot of people chiming in.
Before you go any farther.
Oh, okay.
Steak Man, give me your opinion on the World Cup.
Just a generalized opinion. I love it every 4 years, just like most everybody else.
Go away. Go ahead, Kim.
Glad we could talk.
Yeah, I mean, if you love competition in sports and pageantry, you would like the
I
World
miss
Cup.
the vuvuzelas.
I never understood militant people that are just like so dead set in their way, like, I'm not going to watch it even because, God forbid, I might actually enjoy what I'm watching. You don't have to go out and buy a jersey. You don't have to become a goon, but you can.
If you're having a hard time sleeping, I suggest you turn on a World Cup game, turn the sound up, and you'll fall asleep.
Corn, it's the one sport
within 20 minutes.
We're legitimate underdogs.
You're having a hard time sleeping, K-Mac. Watch a World Cup game tonight.
I enjoy watching the World Cup. Not ashamed to admit that.
Do you fall asleep when you watch?
No, the matches are over at 8 o'clock. The last match starts at 6.
When you're watching Uruguay against Costa Rica, you get excited about that?
Uruguay didn't play Costa Rica.
Well, whoever they're playing.
England.
I enjoy watching it. It's good competition and watching how it plays out. The upsets, watching Spain go down, the defending champion. That would be the equivalent of the USA basketball team losing in pool play in the Olympics.
Wait, really? That's happened,
In pool play?
Haven't they lost games?
I don't think they've ever lost in pool play.
No,
I think they've always advanced to the knockout stage.
Are you talking about in basketball?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think they have lost in pool play.
Some people tweeting about the word coming down with Jameis Winston, his dad saying that he's planning on returning for 2 more years at Florida State, and his dad citing the reason of he wants to get his degree, which I don't understand. I tweeted this. I think that is the worst reason for a player to say they're coming back. It's saying I'm not ready. I want to get better. I'm enjoying being in college. I'll have my whole life to be a pro. That makes sense to me. But saying I want to get my degree is not a very good reason to me. And I tweeted how many people out there would, if you have a college degree, would trade that degree in right now on the spot for an opportunity to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. Everybody on Twitter that has chimed in, sign me up in a heartbeat. Yeah, some people with the emoticon of raising their hand. This guy says, absolutely. Are we allowed to collect our signing bonus and then retire? And then I followed up. I bet you a better than slim number of people would trade in their college degree to be drafted in any round of the NFL draft. And they said, hey, you're going to be a 7th rounder. Okay, I'll take my $30,000 signing bonus, get cut in the 3rd week of training camp, and then use that to finish up my degree.
But here's the deal about some fallacy in what his dad is saying, okay? He wants to come back to get his degree. Well, he's a redshirt freshman. He should be on track to graduate as a junior eligible. Because
if he's taking enough.
Well, that's why
hours.
he's saying this year and next year. He'll be a
that's my
sophomore, and
point.
then after his junior year, go pro.
Are you going to do Rivera here still?
Yes, I really did. I mean, he did get an opportunity to go 3 and 5 step drop today. Actually, did a little bit more than I thought he would, but I really did. I mean, he did get an opportunity to go 3 and 5. Did get an opportunity to go 3 and 5 step drop today. Actually, did a little bit more than I.
When does Dora the Explorer come on again?
All right, to the NFL, where the Panthers wrapped up some work today, and Cam Newton participating in some 7-on-7 drills, and Panthers coach Ron Rivera talking with reporters afterwards about their little mini camp and also the work that Newton put in today.
He got an opportunity to go 3 and 5 step drop today. Actually, did a little bit more than I thought he would, but he's right on schedule. He's progressing very well. There was an outside chance that he'd be able to go full, but he's on track. We're not going to force any issue with him. So he did today what he was supposed to do.
On that note, Ron, will you be very cautious with him even at the start of training camp?
Well, I'm going to do exactly what we're told. What Ryan Vermillion and our doctors tell us is the best thing to do. We're very fortunate. We have one of the best with Dr. Anderson, so we feel very good about that. Feel very good about where he is as far as his recovery is concerned, and his rehab. And I look forward to having him out on the field.
Is there a kind of a decision to be made in terms of being cautious with him, but because you have that new receiving core, like kind of how do you marry?
Well, I mean, I think if there's going to be any real caution, it's going to be right now the Q runs are going to be limited very much so with him. But if there's going to be anything we're going to do, we're going to see him doing the base fundamentals of his 3, 5, and 7 step drops. His timing is probably the most important thing as far as them running the routes and him releasing the ball. That's probably the biggest thing that really has got to get into focus. I'm not quite concerned about him running right now because that comes very natural to him.
It's kind of a little monotonous for him with his rehab every day. Just to be able to get out here with George and break things up a little bit, maybe help them a little bit.
Yes, it did. And it has gotten very monotonous with him. And he's chomping at the bits. He can't help himself because he wants to be out there in the middle of it, and that's who he is. And it's kind of fun to watch him at times when you just know he's bursting to get out here. And at the same time, then the realization that he feels that hey, I can't do that. I got to be smart about it. So he's going through a great process right now. I think he's really learning and growing from the situation.
Well, it seemed like the defense may have had the upper hand on the offense today. Is that what you saw?
Early on, I thought the offense did some really good things, especially in the run and play pass period. I thought the offense did have the upper hand initially. And then as we got further into practice, then you saw the defense do some things. Probably the biggest one was during our blitz period. I think Sean put a couple of new blitzes in today, so they were new and they were different for our offense trying to pick them up. But I thought for the most part it was pretty even until then.
Ron, you mentioned the new receivers. You've had a few weeks with them now. How are they looking to you, and
I think they're looking fine. I mean, I'm really excited about who we have with us right now. I thought the acquisitions of Jericho and Jason and Taquan were really good ones for us. You know, they're young guys that are doing some good things for us. I think Jericho has really gotten a feel for what we do. I think Jason, practices the way you need him to practice. He's a pro for us, and Taquan brings that speed. I mean, trying to replace Teddy Ginn is going to be tough for us in terms of that vertical threat, but Taquan's right there. I like what's happened with Kelvin. I think his development is good right now. We've thrown a lot at them. There's a big volume. And then the other guys that we had here to begin with have really stepped up. It's good to see Kealoha about here. You made a couple plays today. I thought Burson's done a nice job. Marvin McNutt has been one, and Tavares King. I mean, there's a good group of young guys out there. Philly Brown, has done a nice job for us as well. So we're excited about the group of guys we have.
All right, comments of Ron Rivera after the Panthers wrapped up a little mini camp this week. Sounds like the news on Cam Newton is positive as he works to get back in shape. Back in a moment.
It's a great opportunity to talk to your listeners about this year, and it includes all sports facilities. It's a great opportunity to talk to your listeners about this
All right, stand by.
Continuing here on Sports Talk, as we all know, earlier this week, Tony Gwynn lost his battle with cancer, dead at 54 years old. What a lot of people might not know is that his cancer was related to his years of use of smokeless tobacco. In fact, I was reading a story about Tony Gwynn. He said he would literally wake up in the morning, brush his teeth, and put in a dip. And he's joining a long list of people, athletes that are dealing with the effects of smokeless tobacco. Jim Kelly battling cancer. Brett Butler had cancer. Kurt Schilling has been speaking out about smokeless tobacco. Anyway, it's a big issue, especially here in the Palmetto State. And today in our Sports Talk studios, we had Catherine Warner join us. She's the outreach coordinator with the DHEC Division of Tobacco Use, Prevention, and Control. And one of the reasons why this is sports related is males, especially young males, and when I say young, I mean 10th, 11th grade males, and a lot of athletes tend to be involved in this subset, and she wanted to talk about some of the issues that we might not know about.
Great opportunity to talk to your listeners about this going on in South Carolina as well, because we are a southern rural state. We do see a lot of smokeless tobacco use, overall we see tobacco rates decline, tobacco usage rates decline, but our smokeless tobacco rates stay kind of stable. And I think a lot of that is because people erroneously assume that smokeless tobacco isn't as bad for you as smoking cigarettes. You're not inhaling the smoke. It's not going into your lungs. There isn't any secondhand smoke. But the fact is, the smokeless tobacco is just as bad for you as regular tobacco. There is no tobacco that's safe. The smokeless tobacco has more than 28 harmful ingredients in it that are known to cause cancer. The components that cause cancer are called nitrosamines, but it also has other chemicals in it that can make you really sick, like the fertilizers they use in the growing process. And then there's other chemicals they use in the curing process of your dip and your chew that can also make you sick.
I don't think there's not as much emphasis put on it, like you said, about the dangers of it.
Right. It's known to cause pancreatic cancer. You can get mouth or oral cancer. It also causes esophageal cancer. And in addition to the cancers, it causes all kinds of other diseases. It's been linked to heart disease. You can also get really horrible periodontal disease, which is gum disease. It also causes precancerous lesions inside your mouth. And like you were saying, I mean, it's true. We do see, it's predominantly a male phenomenon here in the South. It's mostly, we see it among adult populations. It's 25 to 34-year-olds that are using it. But what's alarming is the rate at which our high school youth are using it, especially our young males in 10th and 11th grade. It's almost twice the rate as it is for adult males.
Yeah, and it's just recently I've just started looking at it, and we know Tony Gwynn, that's a big one now. Jim Kelly, former Buffalo Bills quarterback, who's attributed smokeless tobacco to a lot of what he's dealing with right now as he's fighting for his life essentially. And we've talked about other players, baseball players like Brett Butler, that have dealt with this.
Exactly, and I think that it's important to your listeners. This is very timely with with what's going on with the conversation about the debate over whether or not Major League Baseball should have an outright ban on smokeless tobacco. But I think it's important to let your listeners know that if there is anybody out there that is interested in stopping using their tobacco, DHEC does operate a statewide quit line, and it's free. It's 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Callers call in. They talk to a quit coach that can help them figure out a quit plan and set a quit date and really take those steps. Quit lines are, people who use quit lines, I think they are more successful than people who just try to quit alone. In fact, they're 60% more likely to quit than somebody who tries to quit alone. And if you're uninsured, you would qualify for nicotine replacement therapy. And so people usually think of gum and patches when they think of nicotine replacement therapy. But for users of smokeless tobacco, we have lozenges. So, you stick it right there in between your cheek and gum, and you can just suck on that instead of sucking on that seed.
I think there's a perception out there. I had this perception that it's not as bad as smoking a cigarette. You're not ingesting all those carcinogens, and you're not, breathing in the bad air. But it really is, as you mentioned, all the afflictions, equally dangerous.
I think it is very deceptive because you are thinking that, it's just a straight tobacco and you're just putting it in your mouth. But that tobacco was grown with pesticides and fertilizers and all of the other chemicals that go into the production and manufacturing and growing of the tobacco. Not to mention all of the additives that they put in during the curing process. A lot of these are known carcinogens. They're toxic substances, and it's just as bad. You're at a greater risk of developing heart disease if you're a smokeless tobacco user. And of course, you get all these lesions inside your mouth. I think the Cancer Society has a statistic that says 3 out of every 4 smokeless tobacco users have both precancerous and non-cancerous lesions in their mouth. I think there's a lot of reasons to be wary of the substance. It's just as addictive.
Well, again, give that number for the quit line. Let's get that number out one more time for anybody that wants it.
Sure. The number is 1-800-QUIT-NOW. You can also visit the agency's website at www.scdhec.gov, and you would go to the public health side and scroll down to where you see tobacco cessation, and that'll take you straight to everything that you would need to know about the quit line and how to stop your tobacco use. You can also find other information about what we're doing statewide on the same website. You can find out information about our tobacco-free schools, because I think that's another great way to combat this. When you look at bans on all tobacco products, we have, I forget the percentage. I think it's nearly 67% of our public school districts are tobacco-free, which means there's no tobacco allowed in any form, 24/7, 365 days a year, and it includes all sports facilities.
All right. Again, that was Catherine Warner joining us in our Sports Talk studios earlier today to talk about the dangers of smokeless tobacco coming into the forefront with the Tony Gwynn news. 54, that's just way too young to lose a guy like Tony Gwynn. And you can hear more from Miss Warner on our website, and you'll see a picture of Tony Gwynn attached to that story, and you won't even recognize him when he was going through the cancer treatment. It's really bad when you see people getting pieces of their jaw removed, Corn. And I know you're like me, you grew up in the state, and you didn't bat an eye to see somebody when you were 14 put in a dip or a chew. It just it's kind of part of life. But now we're realizing that it's just as dangerous as smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when I was a youngster, chewing tobacco was the hip thing to do. I did it a couple of times. I just didn't like the taste. And
you're not supposed to swallow.
Well, I swallowed the juice one time too. That wasn't very bright either. That will turn you off on it. And fortunately, nobody in my immediate family around me, well, my brother did smoke for a while, but we kicked him out of the house. But outside of that, nobody in my immediate family smoked, so I never got caught up in that. So I feel very lucky that I never picked up that habit. And, all you have to do, and I know smokers, I've known some people who smoked all their lives, and they've never gotten sick. Really, they've never gotten sick, and they're just lucky. They're just very, very lucky. But then again, you see the commercials, and you hear the public service announcements, and you see and you hear the experts talk about it. And by all means, if you haven't started, do not start.
Right.
Stay away from it.
And I hear people, something's going to kill you. It's like, well, why add something to the fire? Yeah, something is, but why speed up the process and add another peg in the ringer of things that can take you down? And why risk it? I mean, 54 years old. Tony Gwynn left a son and a daughter, and a baseball program.
A couple of sons.
He had a lot left to give this world, and we lose him over something senseless. And Kurt Schilling's talking about it now, and he's dealing with cancer. A lot of these players are. I was reading the story in the Boston Globe today, and a lot of those guys were saying, I wish I could give it up. Pedora was saying, I'm addicted and I hate it. Yeah, and he's like, I need to get rid of this, and I wish I would have never started, and don't start. So at least be aware of it and know what you're getting yourself into and the risk involved.
I didn't know how addictive tobacco was till it hit home that my best friend's father-in-law was a physician, and he couldn't quit. Now, if you got a doctor out there that can't quit smoking, that tells you how difficult it is.
The question is, will Major League Baseball ban it? That's been talked about this week in light of what happened at Tony Gwynn, and I don't know if it'll happen. I would probably tend to guess that it won't, but it certainly is being discussed more now than it has been in the past.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll give you the recruiting report in a moment.
Don't forget you got one more spot, Corn.
All right, Braves in Washington, they are scoreless in the what inning are they in?
Third.
They are scoreless in the third inning up in D.C. A good baseball game underway there. We've got College World Series elimination game tonight. It's Ole Miss and
TCU.
TCU. Yeah.
Winner plays Virginia tomorrow. Tomorrow
Yeah,
night.
Virginia plays
tomorrow
tomorrow,
night.
and
And Vanderbilt plays at 3:00 tomorrow against Texas.
Right. Those teams are undefeated. Love to see Vandy and Virginia go at it. That'd be a nice little matchup.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll get to the recruiting report here in just a moment. I want to tell you that when you are out on that water, make sure that you're going to have fun, of course, but also do not drink and drive the boat. Always designate a driver. Always wear your life jacket. Be sure that you stay safe so you can make it through the summer safely. We'll see you at the football games coming up this fall. All right, that's the message here from your good friends at Sports Talk. Please take it to heart. To recruiting now. First of all, defensive end Marquez Ford, 6'3", 222, Gibsonton, Florida, is down to 6 schools. Clemson's in that 6. He's not been to Clemson, but he has plans to get there for an official visit. And he's big on academics. That's the first thing he's looking at, and likes Clemson's reputation for that. He is working on his other visits. He's got Duke, Rutgers, Central Florida, Tennessee, and Miami also in his top 6 along with the Tigers. He wants to narrow the list to 3 shortly, and he's been to Rutgers, Duke, and Penn State thus far. No leader. Defensive end Trevon Hill, Virginia Beach, had his list down to 5, but he's reopened things and is looking at more schools, including Clemson. And he's planning on taking an official visit to Clemson at some point. In fact, he was planning to call Coach Marion Hobby this week to talk to him about that and some other things. He's not been anywhere so far this summer. However, he's going to North Carolina and Virginia, with the North Carolina up first here this week. That's going to be this weekend. And neither trip will be an overnight stay, just a day trip. He'd also like to visit Notre Dame and Florida State before the season. Plans to narrow the list to 10 in August, then to 5 again. Could take officials to each school that makes that final 5, no favorites. Defensive end Marquavius Lewis, Hutchinson Junior College, Kansas, and Greenwood. Hasn't seen much change of late with recruiting. He feels USC Auburn are recruiting him the hardest, and in fact, he talked with Gamecock recruiter Deke Adams Tuesday, and he said they were telling him about the new commitment they got. He recently took an official to Arizona State and had a good time there. He likes how they use a lot of JUCO players. He visited USC and Auburn unofficially when he was home last month. He plans to take some more official visits. He does not have a favorite, and he won't make his decision until after the season. Running back Tyshawn Williams of Crestwood switched up his visits, and he is going to visit USC on Friday and North Carolina on Saturday. Originally, it was going to be the other way around, North Carolina tomorrow, South Carolina on Saturday. Now it'll be USC tomorrow and North Carolina on Saturday. And Manny Bowen, the linebacker from New Jersey that USC is pursuing, offered today by Florida. Defensive tackle Tim Settle from Virginia, a Clemson target. He's visiting Penn State today. USC today offered offensive lineman Greg Little from Allen, Texas, highly rated, the son of former USC linebacker Derek Little. And Clemson has offered athlete Jason Lewis. He's out of Virginia Beach. He plays receiver. He plays running back. He plays in the secondary. And running back Bradrick Shaw from Hoover, Alabama, made a visit to South Carolina today, one of the many schools to have offered him at this point. And there you go with recruiting. Don't forget, you can check out our recruiting information online all the time at PalmettoSports.com. And, of course, follow the hashtag STRecruiting. Use that to pick up some various short notes that we put on Twitter.
Yeah, you mentioned Derek Little. Wasn't that the tug of war with Tank Black and some other people at Georgia?
He was from Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
He was very highly recruited. He was part of that 1984 class, I think it
with
was.
Todd
84, 85 class, yeah, with Todd Ellis. And you know who else was big in that class? They had Todd Ellis. They had Derek Little. They had Ron Sally, who was a #1 safety in the country back then, back in 1984, 85. I can't remember the exact year. I think it was the 84 season
That's,
and 85 class.
That was a recruiting class that blew up your system back then, wasn't it?
I think it did.
Okay.
And, the Gamecocks had some good seasons as a result of that class. Derek Little, I don't think, ever became the great player that he was expected to become. He was a good player at South Carolina, never became the great player. I think Ryan Buffet might have been in that class as well, if I'm not sure. Not mistaken. Be right back.
Corn Cat trying to ruin it for USC again. Taking shots at the kids' dads who doesn't come here now. One minute on the dot. Eat your heart out, rivals. Stand by, gents. Here we go.
For those of you watching us on our Palmetto Tribe webcam, you see I've gone old school. This is the first year that I kept a list of signees for schools was 1985. And this is before the age of computers. This was all typewritten. That USC class in 1985, gosh, the names, and they signed a bunch of players. But, yeah, Ryan Buffet was in that class.
Okay.
Ryan Buffet was in that 85 class. Let's see some other popular names. Todd Ellis was the biggest name. Mark Fryer from Irmo, All-American. Charlie Gowan was a big recruit for them. I think he got hurt. He was a big recruit. David Hodge from Hillcrest was a big-time recruit. I mean, this class was loaded for South Carolina. Keith Bing was a big-time recruit from Silver Bluff. Originally, his name was Keith Lewis. He changed it to Keith Bing.
Bing.
Bing. Derek Little, linebacker, defensive end, 6'4", 225. Let's see here. Rodney Price, punter, who's I think his son is the pitcher for one of the SEC teams. He pitched against South Carolina this year. I think that was Rodney Price's son. Ken Sally from Morristown, New Jersey, was big time. Pat Turner, remember him? Quarterback from Canton, Georgia.
Other quarterback who transferred to Tech and then back to South Carolina.
Greg Welch was a Shrine Bowl running back from Hillcrest. And one of my favorite names of all time in recruiting, Zip Zanders. So those are some of the guys that South Carolina signed back in 1985. That was a really good recruiting class for them. That was, of course, coming on the heels of the Black Magic 1984 season. And they benefited from that great year. So anyway, the point is that South Carolina now has offered Gregory Little, big offensive lineman, out there in Allen, Texas.
Hard to believe that's 29 years, 85.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, 29 years.
Okay. Time flies like a soccer match in the World Cup competition, doesn't it? Okay. Any final thoughts here, guys, before we wrap it up? K-Mac, you're going to be gone tomorrow?
Yes, I will be gone tomorrow and Monday.
Just another little bit of vacation
Another little
for K-Mac.
breath of air. Well, yes and no. Also, Kyle Parker. How about Kyle Parker making his Major League debut?
Yep.
Well, not his debut, his first start.
Right. First base.
Yeah.
Played first base last night. Struck out
he
twice.
plays in a no-hitter.
2 of the 15 strikeouts against Clayton Kershaw, who was dealing last night. One of the best pitching performances in Dodger history.
That's tough to have to face him in your second game. Of course, he struck out in his first at bat the other night, a pitch hit appearance. So
Yeah,
he struck out 3
It's
times.
early, though.
You think about Kyle Parker, that reminds me of Jameis Winston. He has that leverage also of being a baseball player, so he could get drafted by a baseball team and a football team and use that leverage. It'd be interesting to see how he plays that out.
K-Mac, enjoy your day off tomorrow. Tomorrow night, of course, we'll catch up with the racing out in Sonoma. Keep an eye on the U.S. Women's Open. Oh, and, of course, the latest on the World Cup runneth over. And anything else that we have of interest, we'll bring it to you. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.